Hello everyone, my name is Henrik Goldman. I'll be presenting you LMX License Manager, which is one of our products for being able to control and actually manage your licenses for the products that you're selling as a software vendor, and to basically manage your customers together with this. The agenda here is pretty simple. We will go through an introduction, then we will be speaking about the actual product. I will do a couple of small live demos, and at the very end there will be a round of question and answers, and this whole presentation will take up to an hour, I'd say. All right, so who we are. We were established in 2004. We're originally a Danish company. Now we have two locations, one in Denmark, the second one in Poland. Right now we employ something like nearly 30 people. We keep on growing. Things are going nicely. We plan that 2013 will be a really great year, and things will not only go nicely but even better than that. Together with this, we are also a Microsoft certified partner, and basically it is like this, that we keep on growing every single year. The things we are trying to do different than our competitors in this market is that basically we want to keep on bringing basically the best products and the best service on the market. Our customers say very positive words about what we're doing, especially that we try to be very fast with in relation to support. There's a tendency from prior years that companies has been our competitors has been charging a lot for software licenses in this field, and we're trying to do something different in the sense that we are trying to be giving a really good alternative package to some of our legacy competitors. We have a plan, and we are making this real, that we're basically making reasonable prices together with high quality support and services around this. So the biggest thing in this is that we're trying to make the product as intuitive, as simple as possible, as easy to get started with as we possibly can. And this is what the customers actually value. So how we're actually working is that we're actually working very close together with our customers. We are not having this traditional relationship between vendor and customer, but we really value customers coming back to us saying what is good, what is bad. We take it very seriously. We're really listening to every single customer request, small or large. Then we're really listening to this and trying to improve both in terms of better product, but also in terms of better customer relations. And this is how we work. We're releasing software very often. We're working with several agile methodologies, which are helping us becoming successful, or being successful with developing and delivering software to our customers fast. This is what our customers expect. This is what we do. This is what they appreciate us for. We have three different products. I'll go into the details of the second one, being LMX. However, I'll briefly also touch License Activation Center mentioned at the bottom. License statistics. So to understand the relationship between the products, it's like this. You have LMX, which is a product for actual licensing. So you, as a software developing company, you would be integrating LMX into your product, selling it on to your customers. However, it's a normal situation that when your customers are using your software, using LMX, then they come back to us for the interest of monitoring those licenses that they've purchased. License statistics is exactly for this purpose. It's for the end users. It's basically for your customers. and it's basically letting your customers see exactly what type of licenses they have, how much they purchased, and what their future needs are, whether they need to buy more or reduce the amount of licenses. This is especially very important in large companies, and there are many large companies using license statistics. The other two products we'll get into details with in this webinar. So I don't think there is a need for discussing this further. Let's just get into the real deal. So first, a little bit about the customers that we're having, and I'm pretty sure that you will recognize a number of those companies. We target both very small and very large companies. We have customers who just have a few employees, as well as customers who are buying thousands and thousands and even tens of thousands of licenses from us. We're a diverse company in this aspect, but I believe that we can actually do this with satisfaction. The same customers that have been purchasing from us, they keep on coming back. In fact, we have a very high retention rate. Last year it was about far more than, I believe, 95%, which means that only a couple of customers actually went away from us, but far majority of those companies, even that you even see here on the list, has been with us since the beginning of our company. So the typical thing that happens is that once people get started using our products, they like it so much that they continue for many years ahead. We like this, and we work close with our customers to make sure that they like it too. All right, so LMX. LMX is basically a license manager. It consists of a few components. The essential of LMX is a library that you're integrating into your application. This library comes in under many different platforms. We support this under Windows, Linux, Mac OS being the more popular ones, including many Unisys like Solaris, AIX, HPX, and so forth. It also supports many different programming languages. I'm pretty sure you should be familiar with most of them. It's possible from there to actually extend to even more languages, and we have people using the library in just about every single language that you could imagine. The idea is that you integrate this library into your application, and then you have an option of actually having shipping different types of licenses. This we'll get into in just a moment. So the benefits of LMX is that we try to make it very simple for the vendors, very simple for the end users, which means that for the vendors, the essential is to make a fast integration. We try to all the time let the library become even better, even more simple, even easier to get started with. If you haven't downloaded an evaluation already, I certainly recommend you to do so you can see for yourself. The idea is that basically you will compile this library, you will integrate this into your application, and off you go. Then for the end users, the idea is that you will be able to go and make it really simple for them. We'll see both some screenshots later, and then I'll also compensate this with a live demo. LMX supports different licensing models. The way that it works is that you integrate this into your application, and then you can define one or more license policies. We'll get into in just a second to actually find out exactly what those policies are. The basic idea is that we want to have something which is easier to use than what already exists. This we're having great success with. We're seeing a lot of companies transitioning from legacy license management systems to ours, and basically we are having a number of features that is making LMX even easier to deal with than the competition. Furthermore, the next thing is that together with LMX, so if you understand that you'll integrate LMX into your application and ship it on to your customers, then each customer will need a license file. In order not to, well, if you're a small company, sending out a license file for each of them is a pretty simple problem. However, if it's a larger company, and if you're a larger company and you need to send out hundreds of files, well, then most larger companies are asking for one or another type of automation. This is where License Activation Center is coming into place, because it's like a full system that allows you to manage your licenses, manage your customers, and do integration with, for instance, your CRM system, your ERP systems. You can extract reporting information out of this to find out exactly who your customers are, what are they buying, do all sorts of statistics together with the actual part about managing your customers. So this is like a management platform, but I'll get back to this later because we'll do a short presentation on this as well. All right. So license models. LMX supports a number of different models, and most often people are asking us to be able to basically make single user licenses, which is also known as node lock licenses. These are basically licenses that you integrate the library into your application. You're shipping a license file. This license file is just a text file, so it's humanly readable. Obviously, it contains security, so it's not tamperable, but it's readable in the sense that you can see opened up, for instance, with Notepad or any other text editor, and then you can actually see what the content is, and you can read the entire license policy. This is great because then your users will also understand exactly what they've purchased and how the licensing works for them. More interesting for a lot of our customers is the network licenses. So the single user licenses are great if you're shipping software, for instance, either to individual users or to a small set of users, and they don't want to have a hassle of having a license server. Now, as I said, LMX is consisting of several components, one being a client library, and the second component being a license server. This license server, this idea about license server is that your users are hosting a license server inside the company in order to be able to go and get a license which is shared across several team members. The idea is that when you're starting your application, for instance, let's say some simulation tool, you will start up the graphical UI for this simulation tool. Once you're actually doing that, then you're locking that license. Whenever you're actually stopping to use that application, you're letting go of the license again. This is the essential of network licensing. This is a popular license model since almost 20 years or even more than that. And this is especially interesting in enterprises and larger corporations because you don't need to ship a single license per machine, but rather have a shared pool of licenses which can be distributed across many team members. There are many details in this, and I will not go into all of them. But here are just some examples of what is possible with the license models that we have. There's possibility of shipping trial licenses, which is basically like the typical trialware that you're downloading from the internet. So the first time you install the software, then it asks you, do you want to go and try a trial license? Yes, you do want to do that. All right, you will be able to use the software, let's say, for 30 days. In this case, you're in full control over what's actually going to happen. For instance, we're using LMX ourselves in license statistics, and when it goes into trial mode, then the first thing that happens is that it actually limits the data that the user is actually going to see. So trial in our sense does not necessarily, well, it's a fully functional trial, but we still, for instance, have limitations on the data that you're actually seeing. And this is our policy for one particular product, but you can define this policy in just about every single way. The bottom line of this is that it's really easy to implement, and it's a great way of letting people actually see the licenses and be able to go and try out the various functionalities of the software before buying. Another point is that with trial licenses, you don't actually need to distribute any license file. So it's like an automatic license file created on the user's machine without your knowledge and without your intervention. If you need something more, like you want to, so this is another word for trial licenses is basically anonymous trials, because they just download, for instance, the software from your website, and they're able to get started trialing your application even without asking anybody. If you want to do, let's say, name trials, you can ship time limited licenses, which basically, so you know that I mean, each software product needs a license, but you're able to control who actually gets those licenses and for how long, and you're basically in direct relationship and direct contact with the customer that you're actually shipping the licenses to. And this might be good for some industries where you want to have close control over who's evaluating what and how they're doing it. There's a number of the other licensing models which are all related to these. Virtual machine licensing, well, it might be interesting, especially in the world of today with cloud and not cloud, with controlling about where you can actually run your software. Is it only possible in physical machines? Can you run it inside a virtual machine? And so forth. We also resell dongles. We have dongles that are this. A dongle is basically a USB hardware device that you connect to the USB port. It's automatically detected by the operating system. Under Linux, you have to install a driver. Under Windows, it works directly from Windows Update, so you don't need to do anything. You just plug it in, wait 2 minutes. Windows Update will do its thing, and then you're able to see it function, and you can use it basically for locking your licenses too. So the idea is that basically this is especially useful for single user licenses, that you can lock a license to a dongle, and then you can move the license and the dongle to another machine, and the user can continue using the software on another machine. We have another concept called Secure Store. The idea about Secure Store is that it's like a secure data store on the user's machine, which is created and maintained by our library for the purpose of storing sensitive information. We store information about the trials in Secure Store, but Secure Store is also accessible to you. So let's say you want to implement a licensing scheme, for instance, that let's say you want to count, let's say, the number of sheets of paper printed out. You have a limit that, let's say, your application allows to print 10,000 pieces of paper, and you set up your own counter in the Secure Store for the purpose of limiting the number of copies that can be printed out. If the customer needs more printouts, well, then they can purchase a new license from you that allows you to do exactly that. Then there are also other ones like pay-per-use, time zone restrictions. Time zone restrictions are very useful in case you want to sell software, for instance, across different areas in the world. We have customers, for instance, who use this. Let's say that you're purchasing a license in India, which is less costly, for instance, than a license in the United States. Or you want to limit it in time zones. So if, let's say, only United States, for instance, can go and use this license, but you need to have a separate license in Asia, for instance. Now the interesting part about where one of those which is making life easier for our users, or for the end users, basically your customers, is that if you're actually deploying a network license, then typically you would have a license server, and one of the good parts about this is that we've eliminated all sorts of hassles with setting this up. So it's possible to go and set it up in such a way that we're using automatic server discovery, which means that first time the application actually starts, it's gonna ask on the network, do a broadcast, try to ask around. So where is the license server which I'm supposed to fetch licenses from? And so the right server will then go and answer this question. Well, here I am. You can go and contact me. And by doing so, it might be seeming like a simple trick, but imagine that your users have tens or even hundreds of installations of some software, and typically the typical system administrator has been having nightmares, because when you want to do a large scale deployment and you want to control over who has access to what licenses and so forth, then you also need to maintain access to license servers and so forth. This is one of those features which is making it a lot easier, and basically making it more simple, so the end user doesn't need to actually speak with the system admin to go and set up all the details. It's basically doing simple automation to something which is a little bit time consuming, but it becomes more time consuming with the increase of users. We also have borrowed licenses, and borrowing is a concept that, for instance, a user can take the licenses temporarily out of the pool, take it onto a laptop, for instance, go to an airport, not be connected to the network anymore, and be able to still use the software for some specified amount of time. Let's say you allow a user, for instance, to go and borrow a license from the license server, let's say 14 days. This means that he can take the laptop, take this license temporarily out of the network, go onto the airport for, let's say, for a week, come back again safely, and without any kind of issues. This is basically making a temporarily local license out of a floating license. Together with this, we also have some concepts like grace licenses and high availability, which is especially needed for larger companies, and this is making it possible to go and do basically better cases against emergencies, and try to reduce risk in high risk environments. Furthermore, there's also concepts of license queuing and license sharing, but these are a little bit difficult, so I will let them become an exercise for the reader to actually go and explore this further in our documentation. So, as I mentioned, basically, LMX is pretty simple for the vendors. It's possible to have different policies for different products. It's possible to adapt pretty simple for new markets. You can go and see basically who's have a control over who's basically who you're sending to, make different license policies for those people, make new ones as they come up, implement them quite easily, and be able to at the same time to go and see and react on customer demands. The idea is for the end users is to get up and running as quickly as possible. Everyone as a software end user hates licensing. They hate this. No one likes licensing. It's irritating. It's just in the way. Everyone just wants to get rid of it and just start using their favorite application. We try to do the best to make it so simple and so easy that they will use minimal amount of time and do the stuff that really matters, which is use your software. That's what our intention is. Our intention for the end users is to become invisible. As we're invisible, they focus on your software, and your software should be the greatest experience at all. of all, basically. And this is the thing. We try to make things so simple that it's just really simple for them to get started with, and so you avoid all the hassles of the licensing to get started. All right. LMX workflow is like this. You define your license policy, one or more policies. You integrate this into your application. The most common thing is that you need to integrate minimal into your actual application and majority into the license file. This is the intention, because your license file you can control and change on the fly without recompiling anything. You can ship your application and you can still go and refine and change your license policy long time after, and be able to deliver fine-grained licenses exactly for a particular customer's need a long time after it's actually been sent out in the field. You need to ship those license files. Those license files are typically tied to the user's machine, or the network server, the license server, is tied to some server in this case, and then basically they're able to use this. Each license file, as I mentioned before, is a text file. It contains of one or more features, and each feature is independent of each other. The features are to be understood as software modules. So the most common example is something like a basic Light Pro. So you can have like a basic version of your software. You can have like a pro version of your software, and that pro version you can even have add-ons that are paid, for instance. So this is also a very common scenario, that you have like a base package of your application, and then you have extra modules that people can buy on demand. Yeah, this is the thing. You have different options available. You can set the amount of you have different features, for instance, in your application. You have different expiration dates. You have different versions. You can do all sorts of checking, like for instance, check against people who's validating or for instance turning their clock back, or you can, for instance, do additional trials as an example. And there's a lot of different combinations. I think that we cover just about every single thing that people could ever imagine and beyond. For network license, well, as I've mentioned before, you have your license server, which is a software component. It runs on the end user network. End users, they install the license server. They use it together with the license file. Your application connects to the license server through our library, and that's basically the thing, that they go and connect with this license server, and basically are able to use the license. So this is a pretty small and pretty simple example of how to actually integrate LMX into your application. If it's not so readable, don't worry. We publish these webinar slides on our website. So if you go to products and LMX, you should be able to see those webinar slides and download them yourself, and you can see all the details. This is an example taken out of the SDK that we are shipping. So you're also able to go and so you're also able to go and get a trial version, and then basically be able to go and get the same examples once again, and see further about this. Now the interesting part here is that as I mentioned in the beginning, I'll be doing a demonstration, and I'll be showing in a minute both the license server and also License Activation Center, also known as LAC, about being able to go and both start up the license server and also manage the licenses through LAC. So LAC, the idea about this is that you're able to improve the customer experience. You can do self-service of license handling. This is like the next step. First, you introduce licensing into your application. then you make sure that all your users will get a license file. How do they get a license file? Well, if they're a small company, then if you're a small company, then you should be able to just ship them immediately, for instance by email. If you're a larger one, you probably want automation. This is where LAC makes sense. So with LAC, it's possible to basically generate license orders. You can have different license orders. You can have product templates. I'll get into the details in a minute, and we'll do this demonstration. And then you can activate those licenses directly into both the license server and manually. We have an API for doing it also. And then basically people can get started with this for the purpose of getting an easier way to obtain your licenses than just having to download the licenses, read some emails, do some things. But if you integrate this directly into LAC, with LAC, you can give people a much better customer experience. The same type of experience like if you're installing Windows. The first thing that the Windows installer will do is to ask for your activation key. You will be entering in your activation key, and then it will let you activate online. And by doing so, it takes care of all the things for you. Exactly the same thing here. You have your activation key. You will be entering in this activation key. You will be able to download one or more licenses, and then it's a hands-free experience for the end user. You automate everything so they don't need to worry. That's what I said just before. End user, they don't like licensing, so the best intention is to go and make it very simple for them and try to make it as simple as possible to avoid these things. All right. Well, we also support. We do have an evaluation available, so if you do have an interest in this, it's certainly possible. I will try to switch my windows right now. So the last slide I have is only about questions, but we'll get to those in just a minute because I want to actually do the presentation on LMX. So it's like this. Here I have the license server. So this is what the UI looks like of the license server being on your client's network. So when they install the license server, they will be able to have a UI. This UI is accessible from a web browser. It gives you basic information. You know, where is this license server hosted? What is the user that was started under? How long have been up and running? All sorts of things about how you can access this. The basic things like you can restart it, for instance, or you can do other things like remotely shut it down, for instance. You can do all sorts of type of statistics about the features, so you can see how many people have really been using those licenses and so forth. Here you have the host IDs, and I mentioned before that your license is typically locked to one or more host IDs. Very often you typically use the Ethernet host ID, and you as an end user, in this case this means your customers, will want to send the host ID to you as the software vendor in order to make a license for them. And then once they actually get this license, they can load this license onto the license server and be able to verify that it actually works as expected. And so here the next tabs is like this, that you can see all the licenses which have been made available. As an example, we have one here which is called checkout callbacks. The version being 1.0. The vendor, well, that's our company, Exclamation. The other things here, like here virtual means basically that it's applied and can be used for a virtual machine. It's a network license, and there is a count of 10, which means that there can be 10 concurrent users using this software right now. And with this, it's possible to to have 10 concurrent users, but install it on certainly many more machines. Right now, there are 0 users. All right. You can, if we actually would have users, then we could also filter based on the users right here. So it's also possible to see who's really using this right now. You can see real-time information right now about who's using your licenses. If there is some user that has been using it for too long, for instance, you can go and let them know, well, you know, there's this case, you've been using it for a long time. Do you really need to use it? Or even better, that when people work in groups, then they can log in and, for instance, see who's using it, to make sure that they can tell about their friends that, you know, I'm not having access, so I would be very happy to actually have one of you guys go and remove this license, so I can use it for a while. You can have the log file. You can see the log file. You can see in this particular case the log file of the licenses, of all the events that actually occurred. Some licenses were expired. Some things, some of them are okay. You have all sorts of licenses here. It gave me a warning, for instance, that one feature here is expired. I should consider removing this. This is all right. It started. This license server started up. It told me that it's ready to serve. Also very nice. This is what is expected. All right. So it's like this. It's possible to go and manage the license server as well, and this is something the typical system administrator will be able to do. You can obtain an activation key, for instance, and this activation key will allow you to go and be able to see see the. I mean, when you get an activation key, then you can activate this directly with License Activation Center. So in order to get started using the licenses, if you'll be using LAC, which I'll be just displaying in just a minute, it'll be possible to set up a LAC license order. A license order is the best way to understand this thing about activation is similar to a cinema. If you go to the cinema, first you buy a ticket for the cinema. Once you pay for the ticket, then you get a piece of paper and say, all right, this is my ticket. Now, once I'm ready to actually see the movie, then I can go back and claim the seat basically for this ticket. Same thing here. You're preparing a license order for the customer. It's like a predefined template plus some changes. Let's say you want to, because not all customers want to have the same amount of licenses. So one customer wants to have 2 licenses, another one wants to have 4 licenses, and so you prepare the license order exactly for this customer. Now once this is done, then you have this activation key, and giving this activation key to the customer, he can go and claim this and get the license. And this is exactly what is happening. That here we've entered in a couple of activation keys, and using those, it was possible to go and get the licenses. So we can actually go and get the right licenses for this license server and be able to use them. There are other things here that I will not go so much into details with. As I mentioned before, high availability. This is when you have more than one license server working in a cluster. There's also things like pay-per-use, which is used for back billing, for instance. What type of logging you're actually doing, and you can do control over these things. You can change the entire configuration file, and then there are some various settings that you might be wanting to change, or in most cases not, and that's okay. All right, so this is a bit about the license server. UI, modern UI, fully functional, allows your customers, those system admins at your customer organizations to manage the license server. There's great benefit for them. They don't need to install any additional software. Just open up your web browser, run it, be happy. Do your stuff, be done, make your users happy. That's the point. License Activation Center is about shipping those licenses. I will not go into so many details about this, but I will just do a small and brief presentation about the overview of what this is. If you have an interest, you can sign up for an account. We have plenty of material on this also. There's also some videos that I can also recommend you to watch on license activation, and they're also worth a watch to figure out exactly what license activation center is, how it can help you. Bottom line is you have basically your products, your customers, and your licenses. This is a multi-user platform. So you have, for instance, one product here. Let's see. It's called Astro Power, version 1.1. You can specify a template about how this should look like, what it should look like, how you're selling the software. We all know that in majority of software companies, there are different ways you can sell software. You have your group of small business customers. You have your group of larger customers. You want to sell the software in different ways. You can specify product templates and basically separate those groups to be able to sell the product in the ways that your customers are expecting this. The product templates reference and reflects your pricing sheet that under which the licenses are being sold under. You have your list of customers. We support the integration with third-party CRM systems. This is interesting because you don't want to sit and manually go and enter in the customers. All right, so this is a demo instance, and right here there is something like 300 and almost 70 customers. In our company, well, we're bigger than this. We have more customers than that. So no one wants to sit and type customer information. We are integrating this together with third-party CRM systems for the purpose of dealing with and synchronizing on the fly customer information between other systems. This is very needed, very important. For each customer, you're able to actually ship licenses. This is the interesting part here. This is where everything comes together, because a license is basically, it reflects a particular customer and a particular product. So those license orders that you're shipping, these are like this, that in this particular case, you have a customer called distribution. It basically got licensed for this particular product template. As I said, it's possible to sell your software in more different configurations. It's very interesting that you can go and let's say first sell the software, first sell the customer a small license. Then later, once they're ready to upgrade, you can go and change the product template, change the details, sell them a bigger license. You can manage how the license is locked, how it's locked, what type of locking mechanism there should be. You can manage all the details about how the expiration works of the licenses. It can be not only, for instance, that you're letting the software expire on a fixed date, but it can equally be that you are making the software expire, for instance, 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or even a year from the activation time. So if you have a customer that says, all right, well, I want to buy a license valid for 1 year, but I'm going to buy 2 right now. I need to use one right now, but if you give me a discount on the second one, then I'd be happy to buy a second one. And so you say, okay, no problem. But then the customer says, but hey, wait a minute, if I'm not going to use this license for 3 months, how about that I will lose, let's say, 3 months of time, but I want it still to be valid for 12 months. All right. So you can just make it, so for instance, it expires not from the date of issuing, the issue date, but rather the date of first usage. And this is basically the expiration here would be, instead of a fixed date for expiration, then you would have, for instance, let's say 365 days for the expiration. Because this means that on first use it's going to be valid for that 1 year. great benefit. All right, so I think basically we're done with this here. So I don't think I will go into further details. I'll open up right now for questions, and then basically we will do a round of QA to find out what there is and what we'll actually want to know more about. Anyone has some good questions?
Hello, I think I have a few, but I'm not sure whether you can hear me or not.
I can hear you fine. The microphone is a little bit low, but I can hear you. If you speak up, it should be okay.
Okay, I will try to get as close as possible. I have a few questions. The first one would be, suppose I want to implement your solution in my company. Which would you say is the typical learning curve for a system administration to be able to use your system? Is it something that can be implemented in a matter of hours, days, and what kind of support would it get from you?
So you're talking about from a developer's perspective, or talking about those end-user tools for
both? From the developer's perspective, as I understand, if I understood it well, then
right.
You said it was as simple as just linking to the right library, etc., etc. But I assume it's just a bit more difficult than that. And then from the system administrators, I suppose there's a certain number of tools that need to be installed. So which is the typical learning curve? How long would it take for my company to be?
So let's divide things. First, let me actually go back to one slide here that I was showing before. I'm not sure if how clear it really is, but as I said, you can go back and you can read this either from the SDK. It's possible to download the SDK and see it yourself. Okay. But the essential is that from a code viewpoint, it's pretty simple. You would have a couple of calls into your application that you'd need to do. Well, I don't know if it's so clearly readable, but I'll just say it out loud, and then you can see all the details. So this is basically a full example of implementing a floating license into your application. And first thing is, you need to initialize the library. Then you need to set a couple of handlers for the events of what will happen when things go wrong. For instance, let's say the network connection between your application and the license server will break. So you need to handle this in some sensible way. And then you basically, in this particular case, we also enable automatic server discovery. Not necessary, but it's an optional thing. And then you're just doing a checkout of the actual license. That's it. That's as much as there is to it. The example is more or less copy-paste of what you should be doing into your actual application, and it's just a couple of lines of code. Okay. So this is the first thing. About the learning curve, well, I would say typically from anywhere from a couple of hours up to maximum a couple of days. This is like any other programming library. You need to obviously read the documentation and find out all the things around this, but it's really simple. To do a successful implementation, you need to do less than 10 lines of code to be able to handle this. So I hope that that answers part number one. As I said, 10 lines of code, maybe 20, but it's relatively simple. All the examples in the SDK, they're fully functional, so it's more or less just taking a copy of those, integrating this into and doing the same thing into your own application. Now the second part you're asking is about what other tools do I need to install? And well, if you are only shipping node-locked license, there is nothing more. You need basically the library that you're embedding into your software. This is what you see on the screen. This is what it's supposed to look like. For single usage licenses for node-lock, it's even more simple than this. You can even strip out a number of the lines here. And if you're shipping network licenses as well, then your customers will need to install the license server. So as of the latest release right now, we've included an installer for the license server. It's end user tools installer. You can download it as part of the SDK, or you can download directly from the website. So under Windows, it's a simple MSI installer. It will ask you about 5 different questions, and that's basically it. provided that everything goes smooth and you answer all those questions correctly, then it will even ask you on the last page of the dialog to open up the web browser to actually point to the UI, and basically that's it. Under Linux and Unix, we have another command line installer, which allows you, again, it will go through a wizard that will ask you a couple of simple questions, again, around 5 of them, and basically with this, you're able to set up the license server pretty quickly to be able to get started. Once the license server has been installed, then it's as simple as going to the user interface, getting the license file that was generated. This license file can, as I mentioned earlier, either be generated through License Activation Center and then activated basically, and as you've seen in the presentation that I just did, then it's possible to activate it directly from the license server UI. But you can also integrate activation directly into your executable as well, so you don't need to do it externally, but you can just, let's say, ask people for during the installation phase of your software for the right activation key, and then they can do it. Otherwise, it's also possible to manually construct the license template and manually go and create the license file to ship to your customers. So, I mean, complete learning curve. Well, it's basically in 2 parts. A couple of hours to a couple of days for the code part, depending on how complex you want your license policy to be. But this is relatively easy. And then the second part is about creating the licenses and then either shipping them directly or shipping them together with the license server. And license server, well, that's just an installer that you're going through, and will allow you to go and then once you have the UI open, then you can go and browse the license file, and that's it.
Okay.
Was that an answer?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. I actually have a couple of questions more, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. Please go ahead.
The first one would be, you were talking about License Activation Center as the kind of tool that makes the whole thing, come together, and it's going to provide me as a vendor as well as my customers with an integrated solution, etc. But then at the same time, you mentioned the fact that it was something that makes sense, or that's the way I understood it anyway, something that makes sense if you have a relatively large number of licenses that you were going to be issuing. My question would be, which is the number of licenses that you would assume I'm going to be issuing for it to make sense to me to be using License Activation Center? And number one. And point number two, is there a way, because we were checking on your website, and if say I'm in a small company, I'm going to be using just a few licenses to start with. Is there a way for me to start using License Activation Center in a relatively cheap way, so to speak, until I am actually issuing lots and lots of licenses filed?
Right. To start with your second question, basically, if you're able to ship a lot of licenses, yes. The truth is, LAC is designed both for really small companies, but also for really large companies. Okay. The essential question that you have to ask yourself is, when does it become more expensive to have humans doing the work instead of a computer? We're all here in exclamation. We're all of preference that if a computer does the job better. Sorry, again?
Just an estimation of what you consider, based on your experience, which is a typical number of.
Right. Well, I'd say that anything beyond somewhere between, let's say, 20, 30, 50 customers is typically when you would want to use something like LAC, because there is a stage when you're a small company and you can manage everything, let's say, in a spreadsheet or similar. Yeah. That's all fine. But then there is a stage when you need to have more salespeople involved. You need to share information about what is happening with the licenses, what is happening with the customers. So the breakdown is basically when you start to get more salespeople involved and they need to start sharing information. and
That's what we need to.
basically maintain those licenses, not just one person, but more people.
Okay.
And the second part about integration with website and around this, well, it's as simple as this. LAC offers an API. It's possible to integrate with third-party systems without any kind of issues. So it's possible to integrate into any website. And about shipping licenses, well, the model of LAC is that it's pay-per-use, which means that there's really virtually no upfront costs, but it's all pay as you go. And the idea is that you're going to ship licenses basically as they come. So you can start out very small, and it's really to the stage of, you know, basically from inexpensive to really non-existent cost. Because if you consider the equivalent time of a human being doing the same, then LAC will win probably in any day in terms of better efficiency, because you allow for self-service and automation, and this goes for both small customers and large. I would say it's just as relevant for a small company as it is for a large one, because you want to spend your time on your business and not on support and licensing handling.
Okay, understand that. And can I say just one more?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be more complicated, even for myself, because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, whether the scenario I'm going to describe makes sense. Again, suppose we are a small company, and we're starting to license our products to our customers, and we typically do that in the form of a piece of software or a library, which our customers themselves are going to be integrated in their products to sell somewhere else. I don't know whether you follow me or not.
So basically, you're making a library which is then sent on to another software vendor. So basically, there is one more middleman involved.
Yeah, exactly. There is a middleman. My question, just to put it simply, is if there is a middleman, right? Which
if what, sorry?
Is there support for this in any way by the system? Does my customer does my customer need to have exactly the same licensing strategy as I do? Is there a way in which I can kind of have control of what my customer is doing with my licenses, even though I kind of, don't know?
I would say that it's a fairly difficult.
My licenses in their products. Is there a way in which this can be implemented? Is there support for this at all? Or can you think of a way in which I, as a user of your software, be working with my customer, so
right,
we can deal with this situation?
Right. Oh, all right. So just let me rephrase the question here. So the question is, for everyone's completeness, if you are a software vendor that make a library which is then sold onto another software vendor, which means that your customers are software vendors and not necessarily the end users, and this is the question about how to license this in an efficient way to be able to limit the right people, and I would say that, I mean, it's a little bit tricky question, because there are more details in this, and the more interesting question is it okay to license the end users, the very end users, or are you only interested in licensing the software vendors?
Yeah, suppose the scenario will be one in which, I mean, it's not exactly the case, but suppose you have a piece of software, just a library, that I'm going to be selling to my customer, and my customer is a mobile manufacturer. He's going to be selling mobiles to people, and it's going to be my software in it. And I want to know, how many people are using my software, and I want to keep track of, the licenses that I've been selling to my customer. And at the same time, I obviously don't want the very end user, the person that's running the mobile, to have anything to do with it.
Right. Well, I don't think I will be able to answer this in full on this webinar, but I'd be very, very happy
Okay.
to
All
let
right.
you have us contact us so we
Okay.
can follow up on this further, because we have some good plans on exactly this, and we're working exactly in this field
All right.
because it concerns more of our customers. So I'll be very happy if it can be taken up after this whole conversation.
Okay.
Because it's
Okay.
very relevant, but it's not an answer that can be answered in just 1 or 2 minutes, unfortunately. All right. Is there any more questions? If there is nothing more, I basically would like to thank everyone for participating in this webinar. I'll be very happy to answer any follow-up questions further after this webinar is done. If you would like to, then don't hesitate to contact us. We will be very happy to make a webinar, following up on this presentation, and basically showing more details on the product, answer more questions. So there should be no issue about following up on both these issues that were concerned or asked right here, and further if there's any more. But if there's no more questions, unfortunately I couldn't see the last one here. So if there's nothing more, I will thank everyone for participating. Wish you a really nice day, and looking forward to actually hear from you again. We gladly accept both questions and working with you to be able to make some really great business cases from your problems and with our solutions. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.